The shooting in Tucson has a lot of people talking, including lawmakers on Capitol Hill who may not ordinarily get together. And next month, thousands of conservatives will gather in Washington. Tom and I will be there standing up for your point of view. This is the CitizenLink Report. I'm Stuart Shepard, along with our Senior Vice President of Government and Public Policy, Tom Minnery. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Stuart.
We're also going to be joined by phone today by Tim Goeglein, who is our Vice President for External Relations. He's based in the nation's capital. Hi, Tim. Can you hear us?
Hello, Stuart. Yes, I'm here.
I appreciate your joining us today. First question for you, Tim. You were telling us yesterday that there's a bit of a different atmosphere on Capitol Hill these days in the days following the tragedy in Tucson this weekend.
You know, there really is. There has been, I think it's fair to say, over the course of the last 24 months, a real divide between conservatives and liberals, between Democrats and Republicans. And I don't think it's historic, because I think there have been, great periods of great disagreement about big and great things. But I think we are living through one of those periods. But despite that, since the assassination attempt and the other killings, there has been a remarkable unity that has happened. It's as if politics, and maybe temporarily, has been transcended. And all of a sudden, you have hundreds of Capitol Hill staffers, many of them in their 20s and 30s, who have come out in the bitter cold to pray together. You have the new Speaker of the House who has called for formal prayer inside the Capitol, and you have hundreds of people coming together for that. People who, in an otherwise toxic atmosphere, who would otherwise probably not spend much time together, are all of a sudden having a dialogue. And I really do believe that in the middle of all that is that good is coming out of evil, and in the middle of that, of course, is Jesus Christ. And so it's a very heartening and a really wonderful thing to see, despite the great horror and tragedy in Tucson.
Tim, that's reminiscent of what we saw in the Capitol in the aftermath of the World Trade Center attacks way back in 2001. And given the horrendously bombastic and divisive rhetoric of the lame duck session, this has got to be something that indeed is a divine good coming out of a human evil and a human tragedy.
Tom, you're right. It is actually precisely like the immediate aftermath of 9/11. In fact, in the time that I've been in Washington, not since that time, have I seen this kind of providential unity. I don't think anybody ever could have predicted that it would take an assassination attempt on a congresswoman's life in Arizona to cause this kind of unity and detoxification in Washington, D.C., but that's what it's done. All of a sudden, the congressional schedule has been suspended or postponed. You have the president who is spending a lot of time thinking about precisely how he wants to address the nation. This is not unlike the way that Ronald Reagan prepared to address the nation after the Challenger disaster, or after President George W. Bush prepared to address the nation on 9/14 at the National Cathedral. I think that this is one of those moments when any president, a Democrat or a Republican, really has the role to help unify the country. But I have to go back to the initial thing that you asked, Tom, which is that specifically providentially centered reality of it all, because that's where it's at. This has been a time of an enormous outpouring of prayer, and a time when leaders of our country have not been shy, on one hand, for asking for a moment of silence, and on the other hand, asking for spirited and unified and continual prayer.
All right. Well, Tim, thank you for taking a few minutes to share your thoughts with us today and your observations. We appreciate the work you're doing there in the Capitol.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Tom, there's been a lot of conversation over the last few days as well about what the mainstream media likes to call right-wing rhetoric and how it might have impacted this situation in spite of any evidence to that direction. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's refreshing to hear what Tim said about the atmosphere now, because over the weekend, last weekend, there was this outpouring of media interest in finding someone to blame. Is it the Tea Party? Is it Sarah Palin? Is it those right-wing people? Obviously, no. The shooter is someone who is a very deranged young man, politically incoherent, and I'm so glad that initial rush by the media to find someone to blame seems to have receded and cooler heads have prevailed, and it seems that the atmosphere is one that is productive and helpful now.
It seems like even over the last day or so, when the media, as I watch NBC and some of the other major networks, they're still doing the reports on that theme, but they're kind of vetting them a little bit. They're putting in a caveat at the beginning. Now, we're not seeing any evidence of this, but we're still going to talk about it because this is what everybody's talking about. It tells you a bit about the mainstream media as well.
Well, it does. It's something that's reflexive in them. And, you know, when you look back over the long history, the unfortunate history of assassinations and shootings, you don't see any right versus left. You see people who are deranged. You see people who are disillusioned by the country. And, my goodness, John Kennedy, the assassination of President Kennedy by someone who was an avowed communist. That's generally someone on the left. You see Robert Kennedy, his unfortunate assassination by Sirhan Sirhan, a Palestinian who was upset with Senator Kennedy's support of Israel in the Six-Day War. On and on it goes. And so this thing that the media seems to be looking for is not generally borne out in history.
All right, let's turn a corner here. Next month, just about a month from today, we'll be in Washington at the Conservative Political Action Conference, along with several of our colleagues and several thousand conservatives. What do you hope to see there? What are you looking forward to?
Well, Stuart, CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, is the largest gathering of conservatives by far in the country from year to year. There'll be 10 to 12,000 people there, including several thousand young people. We are part of that conference, and we are part of that conference for a specific reason. Several years ago, we noticed that there didn't seem to be much moral truth, much by way of social issues at that conference. And so we decided we would try to establish a beachhead for the things we believe in at CitizenLink, and we became a co-sponsor. Lo and behold, the first year that we became a co-sponsor, that lack of moral influence was certainly evident for everybody by the presence of a tiny little organization called Go Proud, gay activists who are conservative on economic issues, certainly not on the moral issues that are important to us, such as the definition of marriage. They also became a sponsor. Now, fast forward to this year, their presence was downgraded a bit, and ours was elevated a bit, and that's a good thing. In addition to that, I think the organizers of CPAC have seen that, yes, we do need more traditional moral influence, and lo and behold, the committee now that has, for this year's conference, which arranges domestic and social issue breakout sessions, is in the hands of Sonia Swiatkowicz, one of our senior public policy managers here at CitizenLink. She and Carrie Earl and our staff have planned to put rigorous conservative moral views in quite a number of the panel discussions that will be taking place. And I wrote an article that will appear in the official program of the CPAC conference on the subject of why consistent conservatism has to be social conservatism. In other words, liberty is something that's a gift of God, and it comes to us from our Creator, and that is something we prize, something that contributed to the formation of the notions of this country, important to the faith, important to the country as a whole. So those things are together. So it's really wonderful to have the kind of growing influence that we're having this year.
Now, many of our friends who are watching have probably gotten emails or seen reports about other groups that have pulled out, conservative groups that have pulled out trying to influence CPAC in this way. There are those who would probably want to say that we're at odds with them, but we're not.
Well, these are tactical decisions. People make their own decisions based on what they think is best. I know some of the groups that have pulled out in frustration have, in years past, tried to advance the cause of moral issues at the conference. Now, they've given up for a while. We've entered the fray, and so maybe we're standing on the shoulders of some frustrating work that they've done in earlier years. At any rate, the embrace of moral issues at this year's conference is stronger than it has ever been, and that's why one of the things we wanted to accomplish by sponsoring the conference.
Now, the last election was all about conservatives being more active, more engaged, what the mainstream media likes to tag as angry, because we're active and engaged. What do you see ahead for Christian conservatives in the whole movement as we're now past that election, the new Congress is in place, and we've got the next election almost 2 years ahead of us?
Well, it is a time for engagement. It is a time for respectful engagement. It is a time for thoughtful reflection on the political messages that will be coming from numerous candidates. Even now, prospective Republican candidates for president are stomping through the frozen farmlands of Iowa, and the election will be upon us. And I think that as we go into this presidential election season, it's important for people to pay attention, to be involved, but remember the lessons that have come out of this unfortunate shooting in Arizona. That what we believe, we advance it as Christians, we advance it respectfully, compassionately, yet firmly. And we do so with a confidence that it is truth because it is God's truth, and yet we are humble because we are Christian people.
All right. If you'd like to learn more about CPAC, go to cpac.org. That's cpac.org, and you can learn about it there. It's scheduled for February 10th through 12th. Tom, thank you for your comments today and your insights, and thank you for watching. You may always write to us at mail@citizenlink.com. We encourage you to pray for our elected officials as the new Congress starts getting rolling here and as the Senate's out through the 25th, but they'll be back shortly. Pray for their wisdom. Also pray for those families who are impacted by the shootings in Arizona this weekend, particularly those who lost loved ones in that unfortunate and serious event. And remember, stand tall and be heard.